So last time I flew the Citation jets, we had a couple issues. ILS partially worked. Some of it needs to be controlled by throttle light, and some other issues with the planes lining up properly with the runways. The main issue, though, was sensitivity, so I wanted to do a little bit of an experiment this time and tweak the sensitivity curve a little bit. And I'll show you what I mean once we get in the game. So I've set up a fairly simple flight. It should be kind of fun and relaxing to watch. We're going to take off down here in Key West, and then we are going to basically follow the highway and the island and the Keys, make our way up to the approach to come into Miami Executive. Anyway, it should be a fun little flight, not a lot to it. It should be kind of scenic. I've set it for kind of the morning hours. I'm not really following full on the accurate waypoints here, simply because what I want to see is what I want to do this time. So I'm just telling it that I want to follow this fairly straightforward flight plan. We'll fly between the islands, right in, and then we should be good to land. So let's jump in, let's see what happens, and I'll talk a bit more about what I plan to do with the flight curve once we load in. Alright, so here we are. Let's get in the game real quick. Do our power-up settings. I'm good on my fuel status. Go away, Master Caution. Let the avionics and everything boot up. Alright, so I'm just configuring a couple of my items here. Make sure everything is pretty much ready to go, and it looks like it is. So we are good to go. I have no idea. I'm pretty much cleared to do whatever I want. I just got to climb up to 9,000, which is not a problem. We're on FMS 1, so we are ready to go. Yep. Okay, so we should be fine to taxi. Alright, so what I'm going to do is come in here. I'm set to my citation sensitivity settings, which, if you look, is set to -80, -70, 60, and 60. Now, these are just my cameras, which don't matter that much. Not the end of the world if the cameras are off. So what happens here is typically I get very little and then just a burst of power as I start to climb up. It's like an exponential increase as I reach the threshold on there. Now, in the longitude, what typically feels like is something more like this, where you saw I was just making minor inputs and the whole plane was just snap jumping off all over the place, and it was just absurd. So I'd get up there and it would start to engage, and I keep hitting the control, so it would just roll and go absolutely bonkers, and then it would start to slow down when I got higher up in the curve, and it wouldn't really move quite as much. So I'm thinking this is not working as intended, or it's reversed in some way. So I wanted to try something more along the lines of a flat curve on takeoff. But see, this is part of the problem. Because I've instituted my dead zone to keep the plane from drifting, I have this funky jump so that I don't have an easy way of easing into my controls unless I do something more like this. And that's what I kind of want to try now. Or not that, but you get the picture. Now, I tried to fly early on in the game with a fairly similar curve in the TBM, and it was insanely difficult. Now, they did tweak the game a little bit. I don't know why this thing keeps moving. Okay, it's because I'm touching the input, but whatever. So I'm going to leave this one at -30, and then here, the vertical never seems to be that big of a deal, but I want to try something similar. I'm very fearful that the vertical is just going to go absolutely bonkers on me. So let's give it a try at this. -30 for left and right. We'll see how horrible this is on takeoff. And we'll see what that does for landing. But I'm just curious to try it because there's been so many issues in making these things work as intended that it's insane. And just things don't work. So I really want to be able to actually fly these planes properly. My joystick is not super comfortable, whereas I can sit here super relaxed with this thing kind of resting in my lap. I'm just going to drive over the parking area. I don't care right now. I just want to get to my runway. It's going to be very interesting to see kind of what happens with this. I really do not know what to expect in regards to how it's going to respond, how it's going to handle, what it's going to do. I have a feeling that it's just going to be too nuts. Again, I know that you don't just simply turn left and hold it the entire time you're trying to turn, because the plane's going to continue at a slow speed to rotate. But this thing doesn't want to do a slow rotate. It just goes crazy full power all the time, and that's it. And there's no chance for anything in between to really attempt anything. Even with the TBM, I was trying to do a flight around DIA the other day just to take a look at the airport itself, and I got hit by a slight wind, and I tried to counter it with just a little bit of right, and the whole thing just barrel rolled for a second before it registered. So it's like the sensitivity isn't even being applied at all. It's like an afterthought. So you get hit with heavy power, and then suddenly you get the slowdown. So I'm confused and quite annoyed by the way that works. Nice little texture glitch there. So let's go ahead and get this taxi finished, and we'll be ready for takeoff.
Boca Chica traffic, Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra, taking off runway 26, departing straight out.
So I've got my vertical speed already set. I've got my altitude set at 9,000. I have yaw damper. You should be on. I don't think I can until I have autopilot on. I've got half bank mode on. I have nav on. I don't know if I need flight director on, but I got him on. We are good to go. So we're going to take out, go over Key West. Let's bring the map over. We're going to fly here, go over Key West, then kind of loop back and make our nice little zip up the coast, where we will intercept IZROZ from Hendon or whatever it is. That'll be our transition to ILS. We should pick up the localizer, and then we can hopefully come in decently on ILS. I have no idea if this is actually going to work that way or not, but it'll be fun to figure it out. Anyway, let's see what happens on takeoff here. I'm going to do this from inside, so if I do have a problem, it's much easier for me to try and stab the autopilot button in order to get things functioning. So let's do a run up. And let's get this plane a-moving. Too much compensation there. We should be getting pretty close to liftoff here. Plane's starting to move on its own. Oh, it is super twitchy. Whoa. Look at how fast that went, dude. Holy cow. I am barely applying anything. Alright, let's pump outside for a second. Alright, so let me escape. That obviously does not work very well because I barely touched it. Let me show you. So about here is where I was touching it. Most I got to was here, trying to compensate the hard roll. And you saw how fast it just went joink all the way to full. That's not a sensitivity curve. That's just insanity. So I'm going to put this thing down just for giggles to 93, and let's see what it does. Okay, come on, resume. Here we go. Alright, so I'm flying on my own now. got a bit of left stick. Wind is actually more compensating. I've put it pretty far over, and you can see it's slowly stabilizing, but not great. That's about 80%, and it actually feels like I can fly this thing for once now. I'm gonna angle down a little bit. I have to use a lot more of the stick in order to make things happen, which is a little nerve-wracking because it really doesn't feel like I'm going to be able to actually make this thing turn to the level that I expect it to without going pretty close to full, but that actually worked.
Going to 124.7 Cessna X-Ray Golf Sierra. Miami Center Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra is at 6,900 feet, climbing 9,000 feet. Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra Miami Center, continue as planned. Altimeter 29.902.
Disney cruise ship down there.
Contact Navy Key departure on 124.025. Going to 124.025 Cessna X-Ray Golf Sierra. Navy Key departure Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra is climbing through 7,800 feet for 9,000 feet. Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra Navy Key departure continue as planned. Altimeter 29.902.
Okay, so that's just absurd that I have to turn the sensitivity down that far to make this plane handle. It just kind of highlights how broken things are in this, which is really quite depressing. Interesting, I was at Key West on a Disney cruise ship, pretty much right where that one was, and I don't recall it being that small. But I didn't go in very many places on the island. But it sure is pretty. Alright, so vertical seemed alright. If you noticed, I didn't have a lot of issues with vertical, but I didn't have too much to do. I used flaps, throttle, and a little bit of angling down to keep things kind of in control. But I really didn't have that many issues or problems, so I think overall the vertical was pretty much bang on where it needed to be. Wow, why are you taking so long to load? But to have to go down to 93% in the negative range just to get a bit of a sensitivity curve that's functional, that's absurd. I mean, look at that. I had to go to about here before it really started to bank, because at this point it climbed up. The hardest one when I made that hard right turn was I took it up to about there, somewhere in that range. I might have gone higher, but you see it moves so exponentially here that it just jumps that last little bit with the most minute input I can give it on there. So that's just absurd. I'm going to put this one back to minus 60 just to smooth it out a little bit, but I am pleased that by being insane, we got it to function and we were able to fly the plane now. I'm just a little concerned what that means for the longitude, because it's even more twitchy. I may have to go to like minus 100 in order to get that thing to fly. But we are airborne. We are at 9,000 feet. There's the airport we just left. Nice little shot over Key West. And we should be able here to follow the highway all the way off the Keys and get back up to Florida up there. Coming back from some business trips in Costa Rica, I've flown over some of these islands and it is quite fun. Alright, so yeah, I know we're going to slow down a little bit, it's fine. Not too worried, I want to get to my destination. So, this will be the long haul, just sit back and enjoy the scenery. So we're almost to our left turn. I have a feeling I may need to come down a little bit faster here, because I'm still at 7,000 feet if I'm going to catch my localizer in time. But we are on our way down. We are going to hit the approach, and then we're going to turn and head in. So this should be fairly easy. I'm hopeful I can control the plane, and it's not too bad. But yeah, a lot remains to be seen about how this is going to go, especially with my adjusted sensitivity. I am nervous. We are getting very close. We're about 4 miles from my turn, if not less. And we're pretty much going to come right in here to right about here. So this is Miami here. We're coming in about up here. Let's start slowing this sucker down a little more. We're still way high, but coming down nicely. I'm not too concerned about my altitude yet, but we're not halfway there yet. So let's come down a little faster here. Nice view of Miami over there. There's Miami International. Alright, we are coming up on this left turn here in just a moment. We're coming down much faster now. We'll lose a lot of speed once we get through it. We're hitting some turbulence coming through the clouds. We should start banking very soon. I think that might be the beginnings of it. See the patterns on the water. Yep, there's my bank beginning. Ooh, it's windy. Plane's getting tossed. That or it's the autopilot trying to make a very slow turn, which is it's not doing very well. We are 1,000 feet above my level. Yeah. Okay, so you can see I've got my information for the approach.
Tower on 1 tree, 4.675 Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra.
See the water out my window, that's really neat.
Tower Cessna Alpha Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra 16 miles east inbound ILS runway 27.
Oh, that is beautiful. Absolutely love it. All right.
Runway 27 right approach Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra.
We are almost there. We are at altitude, which is good. Okay, in just a few moments when we straighten up, I will kick on approach. Let's reset for being behind me. I do not see the airport right now, which is not great. Still a bit far out. Yeah, I think I see it now. I believe it's right there. Okay, we are coming in on approach. I am still slowing my speed. Where's this it? I can't tell. I have a great view of these buildings when we fly overhead here in a minute. We don't see much. Okay, we're almost lined up on the central, and vertical we're still way too high. So I'm going to kick that on here in just a moment. Okay, this is the airport. Wish these buildings would render in a little better, but it is attractive looking. Okay, I'm going to kick on approach if I could find it. There it is. Approach mode is on now. it should be getting me lined up with my runway right here. I'm going to lose a bit more speed because I need to kick flaps on very soon. And everything from here is going to get pretty close to just being throttle control. Alright, we are dipping into the white.
Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra cleared to land runway 27 right. Wind 276 at 7. Cleared to land runway 27 right, Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra.
Gear is down. Flaps are at 1. Okay, approach. Please keep me going here. Okay, it looks like it's doing vertical, unless we're just doing the altitude hold. Do I still have altitude hold on? Nope. See, it's off because approach should be running me, I hope. The throttle up a little bit. This thing's doing pretty good. We are bang on the money. Although with this wind, I'm a little nervous. And that's kind of neat. There's a little plane over there. I think he might be doing a downwind approach. Okay. Ooh, bring me online with that runway. Okay, I think I'm a little low, which means I need to do some throttling. I'm going to put flaps to land. And now I really need to throttle up. Offset the wind resistance here. Okay, wow, auto approach is struggling here. Let's throttle up to 50. I need to gain a bit of altitude, so we're going to throttle up a bit more. Oh boy, autopilot needs to come off. Okay, no. Wind is nutty. Wind is nutty. Too much flare, but I need to get lined up. Oh, feather it, feather it. Burning most of my runway. Oh, whoa, wind, no! Oh, rough.
Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra contact ground on 120.025. Going to 120.025 Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra.
We're not going to make that turn. Oh, barely. That's... Okay, so... that actually worked like it's supposed to. I had a cool little plane coming in next to me, who is still up there. He's landing on the far southern side. We did pretty dang good that time. We managed to feather the throttle enough to get the approach system to bring me down smoothly. We were on decent glide slope. The flaps weren't too bad. I lost a little bit too much speed at the end there, so I came in a little bit low. And then, of course, once you get closer to the runway, the system seems to lose a little bit of its focus because you're flying outside of the cone, and the cone gets super small, so it has a harder time maintaining it. I should have come off autopilot a little earlier and flown in the last 500 feet or so manually, but it worked like it was supposed to. So I don't know if they fixed something or just whatever randomly made it work better this time, because if you remember when I was doing the Denver flight in the CJ4, it was all over the place. It started turning way left, it started turning way right, and then another time, I think it was Dubai that it happened, but then I was way high and way low. It was all over the place, but this time it actually worked. I failed, but the system actually worked. Now my sensitivity being much lower, if you noticed, let me see if I can get a good view of the ailerons. Do it this way. So I'm going to go to 50 stick. You can see how it jitters there at the end, which is why I kind of got that jerky motion. So I may drop the sensitivity a little bit, because you see how little that thing moves if you watch the antennas sticking off. It's very subtle, but I get just this little bit of motion, and then suddenly it jerks to 100%. Elevators seem pretty good. I'm not worried about those. But I think I need just a little bit more out of these. So I think if I left it at 90, then I may get a little more, because this up to about here is where I have controllability. If I have to go above that, then there's a problem to jerk it back. But I'm very pleased. That went decently well. It was a good little flight. It really just shows how messed up. Okay, just shows how much, or how messed up the sensitivity settings are in this, because it should be a linear flow. You shouldn't have these weird issues of tuning that. Instead of making this linear curve that changes direction to a 100%, instead of that, it should always stay at like 50% here. This, it should always look like this line. And if I tune the sensitivity, then it just lowers this down, meaning that it takes a little more to move it, so that the sensitivity isn't quite as high. I have to move the stick more to get it farther up, instead of this weird funky bend that doesn't seem to match reality. But at least to this degree, I was able to get it to work enough to fly. Now the longitude is still really twitchy, so I'm gonna have to see if I can make that one work. But I'm really happy that I was able to actually land this plane using the approach system, and it worked perfectly. So hope that gives us a good idea of what we can do, and now we can actually start having some more realistic flights and get to know our airplane a little better. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.